I think our first interview was talking about Africa,
Right.
and the different places of Africa. And you had like a disagreement with a scholar,
Yeah.
content creator.
Right.
So, what country do you suggest in Africa that, like you think a lot of Black Americans would like, or something like that?
Well, I think the two standouts in Africa for people. Well, I guess we could say three. The three major standouts in Africa for people who've never been, who just want to like dip their toes into the continent of Africa, but still have some kind of familiarity. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they're going alone. They may not have a network when they land. The easiest places are going to be Kenya, South Africa, and Ghana. And that's not in any particular order, but those three, they receive the most Black American tourists, and you have networks, you have a lot of, Blacks who've been living in these places for 20 years or whatever. So they're familiar with the Black American experience. And even more than that, things run a little bit better than other places in the region. These are three completely different regions in Africa. I say Ghana, which is West Africa. So Ghana, things run really well there for West Africa. Kenya, things run really well there for East Africa. And then South Africa, out of the whole Southern Africa, things run the best there. Communication is easy. All three of these countries, they speak English as an official language. So yeah, I would start in one of those three countries, depending on what you're interested in more. Some people really want to go to West Africa because a lot of us African Americans, foundational Black Americans, even Caribbeans have their DNA originating in West Africa, right?
Right.
Then some people like East Africa for the culture, for some different things, and some of us do have some East African as well. And then Southern Africa, because of the apartheid struggle, Black Americans have been really going hard for South Africa all the way back to the 80s and 90s. I mean, even Michael Jackson back in the day, he refused to play in South Africa until they stopped apartheid. I mean, I could go on and on listing all the people who supported and helped topple that regime in Southern Africa who were Black Americans. So yeah, there's a lot of a history of connection with these places. I think those are good places to start off with.
In your opinion, like I did a video like a week or two ago about seeing sisters kind of complaining about certain things they're going through, in Ghana and the rest of Africa. Why are their experiences a little bit more different than? Because the guys I know, they all love it, but the women are having like issues with I think it's maybe double taxation, or not necessarily the treatment is bad, but it's just like you welcomed us back, but yet it's a financial incentive for us to come back to Ghana. Because if we was truly your children, you wouldn't be charging us for visas and double taxing us and saying, hey, foreigners have to pay this much. And if we truly your children, that's some of the complaints about.
Y'all invite us home. Let's talk about what y'all do to us. Starting from the fucking before we get to the airport, we gotta have a visa that we pay for to even enter our home. We pay all this money for passports and visas to get here. We get to the airport, and as soon as you see a fucking blue passport, everybody's coming for us. Can you give me something small at the COVID place? You get to immigration. Can you give me something small? You get to baggage. Can you give me something small?
It's just this, I pick up on vibrations and energy, and it's just like the immigration people just felt like they don't want me here. For whatever reason, whatever judgment they had of me, I don't think they want us as expats there.
The women, but just in general, do women have a different experience on the continent than men do?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are many parts to that. As you said, some different things. So the first thing is, what is it like going back to Africa or going to Africa for the first time if you're a Black American versus a Black American man versus a Black American woman, right? So I think not 100%, but I think you have a higher percentage of Black American women going to West Africa than the men. So I'm not going to say definitively, but I'll say let's say 65% of the people who visit Black Americans who visit West Africa are female, and 35% are male, right? So just there you have a difference in the numbers, right? And West Africa is run a little bit differently than East Africa. So I think that could kind of affect the perceptions and some of the treatment and stuff. But I'm going to speak for Africa in general. It's a more patriarchal society than we're used to if we're coming from the West, you know, just across the board. Now, South Africa is a little bit looser, a little more westernized, but almost everywhere outside of that, you still have a stronger patriarchy. And as a male, coming to that is an easier transition than as a woman who was raised in the West, which tends to lean more matriarchal. So seeing black men in particular in every high position, you know, from the president to the governor to the this to the that. There are some female leaders in West Africa as well. I'm not trying to say that there aren't, but I'm just saying overall the culture tends to be more shaped by men. You have a lot of countries in Africa that, if they're not entirely Islamic, they have large Islamic communities. Like Kenya is not an Islamic country, but they have a huge Islamic community. And then you have a place like Tanzania that also, I mean, Islam kind of runs things there, and many other places.
That's
too.
one of the women were complaining about.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen some of those videos that you refer to. Like, I think one of the topics that comes up frequently for Black American women who settle, for example, in Zanzibar, is that Zanzibar is like one of the most Muslim parts of Tanzania, and in Zanzibar, if they see a black woman, they don't know you're Black American. They see you as a Black African woman, which is what many people want to be seen as, right? But what comes with that is they're going to expect you to follow the code of conduct of a Black African woman. And then when they see a white tourist woman, she's completely absolved from that because she's not seen as part of the community. And so I think a lot of times there's that disconnect where Black American women are like, you know, I'm used to dressing like this. I'm a grown woman, you know, I'm not a child. You know, I can travel to Jamaica and wear this outfit. I can travel to wherever else and wear this outfit. But then I'm here and you're looking at me like I'm a HOE because I'm wearing this outfit, but you're not looking at Becky like she's a HOE and she's dressed the same way. But the way that I heard it, the thinking over there for the locals is that, okay, my daughter who is from here is going to see Becky and say, she's not like us. She's not part of our culture. So she's not looking at Becky as a role model. She's looking at you as a role model. So if she sees someone with the same hair texture as her, same skin color as her, walking around with everything out, she's going to think it's cool. You see what I'm saying? So they're holding them to that African female standard, which is something they may not have ever been held to before.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
and they may not have signed up for that. They might have thought, hey, I'm American now, you know, treat me like an American, you know, treat me like you're treating Becky. But like I said, it's kind of hard to be like, okay, I want to be American when it suits me, and then I want to be treated like African when it doesn't suit me. And I think that's kind of all throughout Africa. Like there are those times where it's like, it can work both ways. It can work to your advantage and it can work to your disadvantage. Like I've heard people say they get called Mzungu, right? And they're like, you know, I'm black like you. Why are you calling me Mzungu, which is like white or foreigner, depends. Or like, I think there's many different terms. I think Obroni is one of them in Kenya or whatever. But there's different terms or whatever for foreigner, right? And I think a lot of Black Americans, especially ones who have that strong Pan-Africanism, really resent being called like a foreigner. And may have some issues with like getting prices that are more like, you know, prices for like, oh, these are American prices, these are Westerner prices. Like, look, I live here, you know, I'm one of you, you know. And I think the only way you can really get around that is to like really learn the language and really integrate into the society. So yeah, it is kind of hard to be like, okay, I want to have a little bit of American privilege, but then at the same time, I want to be, you know, treated like the same. Yeah. So I think in every culture is going to be a little bit different throughout the continent.
When you think about passport, what's your opinion? We have a problem with is, on Black women as a reason to go over to take advantage of women who are not financially stable. You go over there to find somebody who's going to treat you like a king.
Download now on the App Store and Google Play.
as to the piece on men versus women, I think a lot of times Black American women, especially because they come from a stronger economic position than the women do locally in several African countries, that it's kind of harder for them to adjust to, especially in romantic relationships, when it comes to finding a partner, for example, or finding a husband, finding a boyfriend who's going to be able to meet them on that same economic level is probably going to be hard. And then if they get someone who doesn't meet them on an economic level, then they feel like they can talk to them any kind of way, or
Facts. That's
or
facts.
like, well, you're not the provider, so XYZ, and they're not really on that time. They're like, it don't matter if I got a dollar in my pocket or I got $100 in my pocket or $100,000 in the bank. Like, I'm still a man, and you're not going to talk to me crazy. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, obviously, as a Black man, we go to Africa, we're not going to have that same situation.
Right.
I've just never heard of.
In your personal experiences, do you have like good interactions with the locals and the women?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Do you feel at home?
universally.
What's good, family? Make sure to check out the official Passport Bros merch store.